Welcome to today's class. Today I'll be focusing about the purchasing procedure. As you all know, we say that purchasing is very key in any organization that wants to be strategic. This is because purchasing allows you to be able to cut on costs and at the same time be able to get profits. So basically, purchasing procedure describes the sequence of steps that leads to the completion of identified specific tasks. So the purchasing procedure describes that sequence or steps by which a purchasing function is carried out through its inception up to its completion. So some of the steps that we are going to look at today involve the following. The first step is called recognition of need. We'll also talk about the selection of suppliers, placing the purchasing order, follow-up of the order, receiving and inspection of materials, payment of invoices, maintenance of record. So let's talk about the first step, that is recognition of need. So during purchasing, one of the main steps is recognition of needs, and recognition of need normally happens at the user department. And the user department, because they have various needs, they always ensure that they fill what is called a purchase requisition form, and this form is forwarded to the purchasing function, who now do what is called ordering to the supplier. So most commonly, there are three most common types of purchasing requisitions in any organization. One of it is called the standard purchase requisition. We have the traveling purchase requisition, and we have the bill of materials. The second step, after identifying your need, you need to select your supplier. So basically, there are two aspects of selecting your supplier. You can decide to select your suppliers from the existing supplier list, or you can decide to come up with new suppliers. The information about suppliers is normally found in various trade directories, advertisements, trade journals, direct mail, or interviews from the suppliers, salesman, or suggestion of various business associates. So information about supplier is very key. You are supposed to choose a supplier that is reliable, a supplier that is not going to disappoint you at any given time. The next step is placing the order. Once you identify your supplier, the next important step is to ensure that you forward your purchase orders to your supplier. And basically what happens in the purchase order, you normally have a printed material that shows the purpose and specification, such as the name of the supplier, the item specification, the quality, the quantity, the price, the date of requirement, the mode of delivery, and the relevant terms that are made in the purchase order. So it's always important for you to fill the purchase order. After doing that, you must do what is called a follow-up. You are following up and checking whether the supplier is able to deliver the goods on time, or the supplier is able to deliver on time. The other important step in this process is called receiving and inspections. Once the goods have been delivered, you must receive those goods. And the important thing that you must check during receiving is the invoice for that location. Basically, this allows you to be able to receive materials that are for that particular location. It is important while receiving, you also need to do what is called inspection of material. You're inspecting to check on the quality of the materials, the quantity, the price, and some of the various important requirements that are needed. The other thing, after receiving an inspection, the other important thing is payment of your supplier. So you need to pay your suppliers the invoices that they are required to be paid. It is very important to pay your supplier so that you can be able to increase that relationship between the organization and the supplier. That mutual relationship is very key for strategic business performance. After paying your supplier, you need to maintain records. So you are maintaining the records of your various supplies. And this is important because during audits, these are the things that they normally check: your records. And in the event you don't have the best in terms of records, sometimes it becomes very hard for your organization, and this can lead to issues to do with unethical practices within the organization. So the other thing is to maintain the vendor relationship. It is always good to maintain a relationship with your supplier, and this is because the mutual trust and the confidence that you have with your supplier is very key for your performance within the organization. So what are some of the specialized purchasing procedure? The material requirements are broadly classified into two. We have the direct materials, and we have the maintenance, repairs, and operating supplies. These characteristics are basically grouped into two, and they might differ sometimes depending on the various procurement efforts and the need in that organization. So we have various types of specialized purchasing, and this includes blanket orders, we have stockless buying, we have systems contracting, and we have small order purchases. Blanket orders is a type of standing order with the supplier for the supply of materials according to the requirements of the buyer. So blanket orders base their facts on the requirements of the buyer. So you are supplying goods depending on what the buyer wants. Stockless purchasing, on the other side, suggests the name. The buyer is not required to maintain the stocks of these items. So in this type of purchasing, the supplier is not really required to maintain the stocks. The buyer basically orders whenever he or she requires the materials. The other one is systems contracting. Systems contracting incorporates the characteristics of blanket order and stockless order. Still, it is different from them. Like blanket order contracts, the period contract is made with the vendor, and like the stockless buying, the buyer is not required to maintain the safety of the stock. But in system contract, it is unique in the sense that it is a long-term contract as compared to both blanket and the other arrangements. Then we have the small order purchase. This is common in all companies that need certain items of non-recurring nature, which involve very significant costs. So you realize we have those items that are non-recurring in nature. So you don't need them in a day-to-day basis. You can decide to use what is called a small order purchase. Thank you for listening. So you realize that purchasing procedure is very important in any organization. This is because if you follow that procedure, at the end of the day, it becomes strategic in your organization. So organizations that have embraced purchasing procedure are some of the best companies. For example, the likes of Safaricom, the likes of Airtel, and other big companies are able to ensure that they follow the purchasing procedure to the latter. And this is also strategic for the company to grow. Thank you for listening.